Welcome to The Talk, where we discuss the latest topics regarding industrial relations around the world. My name's Amanda, and on today's show, we'll discuss if minimum employment is most important in developing countries. Hold on one moment. We have a reporter coming in from Somalia just to weigh in on the issue.
It is ranked as one of the world's most dangerous cities. Today, I am accompanying Nigerian police officers on patrol in Mogadishu. We are on our way to join the local Somali police force for a daytime patrol. We alight at Banadir Junction. The AU police officers take position. They look properly uniformed, well-dressed, armed and disciplined, and being part of AMISOM force, well paid. And not far from them are the Somali police officers inspecting vehicles. The two work hand in hand, but they are different worlds apart in every sense of the word. Tattered uniform, no shoes, not well armed or protected. That's the life of a Somali police officer.
Wow, those working conditions are just shocking. It goes against every employment standards and regulations that we enforce here in Canada. Developing countries like Somalia have to create stricter laws and standards for its workers. Ladies, what are your thoughts and opinions? Do you think minimum employment standards are most important in developing countries?
Thanks, Amanda. I'll take it from here. In my opinion, I believe that minimum employment standards are not important for officers or any workers in developing countries. That is not the priority of the government. The government in the developing countries like Somalia do not have sufficient funds to provide their workers with fancy equipment like steel-toed boots or bulletproof vests. The government just doesn't have the money. Where are they going to get the money from? The government barely has enough money to provide their people with basic necessities like water and medicine. They have very low living conditions. Where would they get money, millions and millions of dollars to shell out for workers like police officers so they could look good on duty? The money has to come from somewhere. It can't happen. I believe it's not important for developing countries to have a minimum employment standards. The standards that they have now are sufficient and it justifies their living conditions. It's a poor country. What do you expect?
Chanel, you can't be serious. That fancy equipment that you speak of is what's going to protect people like police officers on the job. It's extremely important for workers to have the minimum employment standards to ensure that they're safe at work. The government and companies in developing countries should use a portion of that budget and invest it back in the equipment and uniforms to give workers better working conditions. It's proven that poor working conditions will lead to workers being seriously harmed on the job.
Amanda, one positive outcome of having flexible labor regulation, like not having minimal standards for working conditions, is an increased production of manufacturing companies. Well, I know you guys maybe don't believe it, but I actually found a research that industries located in Indian states with flexible labor regulation grew more quickly than those in states with rigid labor regulations. For example, Andhra Pradesh, which has the most flexible labor regulation. In Andhra Pradesh, production in business was 50% higher in 1997, even if there had been no reform.
Well, take China for example. China has 5 principles which regulates minimum employment standards, and their GDP in 2017 is 10 times higher than India's in the same year. But these two countries' GDP were pretty much the same 20 years ago, when China didn't have the minimum employment standards. So look at how much China have grown because of the policy. You said flexible labor relations increase India's production, but what if employers make the workers work all the time and don't give them enough breaks? The workers will eventually go on strikes, right? So actually, I don't think it's a long-term strategy.
Great point, girl. And just to add to that, you have to understand that a country that fails to enforce basic protections for its workers can gain an unfair trade advantage, boosting its market competitiveness against countries with stronger labor safeguards. For example, insufficient employment standards in countries like Somalia ultimately lead to the exploitation of its workers. All I'm saying is that if a country applies a set of minimum standards, member countries can offer and enforce worker protections at a more nearly optimum level. By having the proper employment standards, it will enforce employers to maintain worker protections rather than abandoning them in a race to the bottom.
Ha! I'd like to see that evidence. The fact of the matter is that if developing countries enforce minimum employment standards in regards to labor, this will cause a rippling effect and it will directly hit our Canadian economy. And all the cost of products and goods will go up. This means saying goodbye to first world luxuries like buying cheap products, and for stores like Dollarama, out of here. And 3 tops for $10? No way, no more. Prices of items will double, if not triple, if developing countries enforce minimum employment standards. Implementing labor standards in developing countries will destroy the Canadian economy, as people will find it increasingly difficult to buy products which were previously cheap and accessible. This will stop people from spending. No one will spend, and that's how the market will crash. Is that what you want? Developing countries have been the backbone of Western companies, providing inexpensive labor that grows our economy. And as well, it supports their economy as well. They're getting money. Why would you want to change and disrupt this? I mean, I just don't understand.
Wait, Chanel. You talk too much. Hold that thought. Shh. We have a call coming from Toronto. I think her name is Amber. Hello? Hello, Amber, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, what do you think of the minimal employment standards?
I'm actually from Somalia, and I think minimum employment standards have helped us a lot. And those standards prevent us from exploiting by our employers and has changed our life a lot. For example, we now have minimum wage, better working conditions, and reasonable working hours. So I think minimum employment standards are really, really great.
Oh, thank you for calling, Amber.
Thank you for having me.
Let's come back to our conversation. Employment standards is not the most important things in developing country, but it is necessary. The more important thing for developing countries is creating jobs to boost the economy. In time as the economy grows and the company earn profit, then employment standards can be reviewed, because in the country where people are starving and living in poverty, job creation will help them immensely. As we all know, that may sound harsh, but if it has to start with baby steps, we believe that the working conditions should be above satisfactory, because you do not want people to be working in an unsafe environment. We do believe that people need to be treated fairly and treated with respect. But again, countries where there is no employment, when they are offered work, their main focus will be earn money to provide themselves and their family.
For labor regulations, in India where there is a flexible regulations, the quantity of production is good, where in China the regulations are standards and the quantity is way more than India's. However, it doesn't mean non-flexible regulations are suited for every country. It depends on marketing strategy, national conditions, and gross domestic product. Labor standards should be above satisfactory for employees so that they can work in a safe environment to ensure the production, and all people need to be treated as human. However, implementing labor conditions will cost business more money, and these funds need to come from somewhere. And in most cases, it will be price increases with the products.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Hope we can receive some important feedback from you. See you next time. Bye.